Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1481, Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valleymont. I would like to thank the Sadist Media for letting me use their studios today. I'm going to only use them for about 10 minutes, so I hope they don't mind. As I produce this show, which I will have to tell you that
Mike's Daily Podcast
is the name. Mike's Daily Podcast, broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valleymont, the last place on earth. And
Mike's Daily Podcast.
There's a podcast that I listen to that I've mentioned a couple of times. It's called To The Point with Warren Olney. He's fine. He goes on the radio and talks about things that have to do with the current topics of the day. He's awesome and slightly gray. And he apparently is now
Mike's Daily Podcast
going to stop doing his show on the radio and only do it as a podcast. So
Mike's
that makes me,
Daily
who does a
Podcast,
sound like I'm ahead of my time.
Yeah!
Because this show has only been a podcast on the, well, actually it was on an internet radio station for a while. And apparently the guy that owned the radio station got upset with me. Not while I was doing the show on his internet station, but just a few weeks ago, he got mad that I brought up the Trump dossier, quote unquote, that surrounded the controversy and no, wait, that can't possibly be, oh, maybe possibly it is type thing. But, and funded by Hillary Clinton, et cetera, et cetera. Look who just walked in.
Mike Matthews, it's Jolly Stewart, gift shop supervisor, so that's really awesome that Warren Olney. I listened to his show because of you.
You started listening to The Point?
Yeah, it makes me feel really, like, smart. Because he talks to people and gets all sides of a issue.
Very good, Shelley. You're so, like, smart.
Thanks, Mike. You're, like, so, like, old.
Thank you. That was Shelley. Look who else walked in. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floor Man. And this is John Deere, the engineer, Mike. We're, podcast fans. Yes. Thank you for loving podcasts. Thank you. John Deere helps put this podcast... No. Don't talk about that. What? Do you help out with this podcast?
And here's today's podcast picture.
Oh, damn it. No, you do. You help out with the podcast. You make it sound great by making sure all the wires are connected. Hey, let's look at the podcast picture today is of my wonderful dog, Basil the Boxer. He, in this picture, which was taken yesterday, so this is a very timely picture, unlike the one I took and posted yesterday, was actually taken 8 years ago in Washington, D.C., in Alexandria, actually. But no, the one that's up today was taken yesterday at Fairmont Ridge. I love that place. I hadn't been in a... Well, I guess I went this past weekend, but before that, it had been a long time. And the sun is now going down super early. It's down by like 5:17. Its sun sets. And so I have to get out there to Fairmont Ridge rather fast, quickly, before it's dark. And so there's a picture at dusk as Basil is looking out over the valley, the bay, which is kind of like a valley. And off in the distance behind him is Silicon Valley. So there he is in all his majesty. Check out that picture at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Also go there if you'd like to help out the show through the Amazon link. Click on that and buy whatever it is you're going to buy. That helps us out because, well, when you're buying stuff, we get like, hey, they used Mike's portal to Amazon. So we give Mike like a teeny weeny bit of something. And I haven't really gotten that. But thank you for doing it anyway. I think one time somebody did some shopping and we got $11. So there's there's a PayPal. You can help us out that way too if you'd like to do that. There is a show that PRI, which is also that's where To The Point is actually heard on. but they also have this show called The World. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but there was something I heard on their show there was a commentator. They have a lot of young people be commentators on The World. And this one girl, she was talking about the movement that, and I can't think of the name of the movement. Maybe I'll see it pop up here. But she talks with the highest voice I have ever heard on the radio. And the whole time she's talking, I'm thinking, how in the name of... Did she get on... That voice is causing dogs to howl at their radios. I can't find it. Well, at any rate, she had a really high voice. So you can hear her on The World, which I do tend to listen to from time to time, because it helps me see what's going on this planet. All right. Next time, I'll have that. Or not. Oh, I wanted to tell you what the thing was, what you should do with when you get a gift card. If you get a Starbucks card, okay, open up an account in Starbucks, and you can transfer that money to a card that, let's say, you've already put a bunch of points on, and then you rewards points, and then you've helped add to the points. So that's an idea. You know, they didn't... Oh, here we go. Allah... No, it wasn't the Allah Akbar thing. Oh, okay. Well, what you do it, so that's an idea. And finally, let's get to this part here. Apparently, a day after the gunman that shot and killed parishioners in a small Texas church, a day after that news came out, the Air Force admitted that it had failed to enter the man's domestic violence court-martial into a federal database, and that would have blocked him from buying the rifle that he used to kill 26 people. That was apparently this guy, Devin P. Kelly, who killed himself at the scene, or actually he drove away, and then police caught up to him, and he had killed himself with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He, apparently, under federal law, the conviction of him for domestic assault on his wife and toddler stepson should have stopped him from legally purchasing the military-style rifle and 3 other guns he acquired in the last 4 years. He had actually cracked his stepson's skull. So the Air Force has launched a review of how the service handled the criminal records of former airman Devin P. Kelly following his 2012 domestic violence conviction, the Air Force said in a statement. Then Donald Trump, and Melania in some kind of Jedi Knight outfit, said that yesterday hundreds more would have died in the mass shooting at a Texas church had the citizen who pursued the suspect not possessed a gun. The superhero guy, the next door neighbor that came out with his shotgun. Trump was asked during a press conference, this was in South Korea, whether or not the president would consider extreme vetting for purchasing a gun. Quote, if you did what you're suggesting, there would have been no difference 3 days ago, and you might not have had that very brave person who happened to have a gun or rifle in his truck go out and shoot him and hit him and neutralize him, he said. And I can only say this, if he didn't have a gun, instead of having 26 dead, we would have had hundreds more dead. Wilson County Sheriff Joe Tackett confirmed yesterday that 2 citizens pursued the suspect, 2 of them. The Associated Press identified the man who shot the suspect as Stephen Williford, who hit Kelly twice. Kelly was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound after he wrecked out fleeing the scene. Then the latest polls. Oh, yes, it's election day today. Tuesdays when we hold elections. And I don't think there's one in Castro Valley. I didn't get any election forms, so I hope I'm not missing out on some big election day today. But the latest races for governor in Virginia and New Jersey. Polls opened in Virginia and New Jersey as voters choose new governors. Republican Ed Gillespie and Democrat Ralph Northam have been locked in a heated race in Virginia to succeed Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe, who cannot seek a second term. The contest is viewed by many as a referendum on President Donald Trump and a possible preview of the 2018 midterm election. If a Democrat gets elected, I will be so surprised. It has just been not good for Democrats. It has been not good for anyone who was ever a never Trumper. It's just been crazy, this Trump train. Crazy. So with elections, I don't even watch them because it gets me so upset. New Jersey voters are choosing a replacement for Governor Chris Christie. That's right. He cannot seek a third term. He's going to be out of the governorship. I can't believe that. Finally. Jeez. Valentino, the parking attendant, won't be happy about that, but he's not here today. And Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno and Democrat former Goldman Sachs executive Phil Murphy are the leading candidates. In Virginia, that's an interesting state that, we've all been in. In Virginia, all 100 state house seats are up for election, and voters in New Jersey are choosing lawmakers for all of its legislative districts. Now, Senator Rand Paul was attacked over the weekend. Perhaps you heard about that. The assault on him by a longtime next-door neighbor was not motivated by political differences, but by a dispute most people would find trivial. An attorney for the man charged in the attack said Monday. The attorney did not say what the dispute prompted the attack, but I guess it was trivial. It left Rand Paul, 54, with 5 broken ribs. Rand Paul has an extremely beautiful wife, by the way. I guess he's a good-looking guy. What can you say? He didn't deserve this. I don't think any politician should get... Well, sometimes I feel like politicians should get punched, but I am not for violence. And I think we can work out our disagreements some other way. Hey, a former foreign policy aide to Donald Trump wanted the then presidential hopeful to make a landmark speech in Moscow. Yes, during the 2016 race for the White House, he wanted him to make a speech in Moscow. Carter Page released, Carter told the panel, the House Intelligence Committee, that he had suggested to foreign policy advisors on the campaign that Trump make a trip to Russia in 2016. The idea there was bearing in mind Barack Obama's speech as candidate in Germany in 2008, that was what I was envisioning, he said. Obama's historic Berlin speech in 2008, while still a presidential candidate, drew an audience of thousands. Had he done it, wow. A new phishing email scam is targeting millions of Netflix subscribers. So, I'm a Netflix subscriber. I've been catching up on the TV show that ran, I think, from 2000 to 2004, Enterprise, which was the last big Star Trek venture for this current one that's on right now. It was an interesting show to watch because it did take on some of the things that were going on at the time, like 9/11 and pursuing the Taliban and Osama bin Laden and all that. So it was an interesting show, and in fact, I watched one last night that was really good, where the doctor on the show, his name wasn't Bones like in the original, it was Phlox, and he was a Danubian, and he talked very like pompousity, the pompousness of love. And he, in this episode, all the humans had to be put in a comatose state, in a coma basically, so that this big nebulae that they were flying through wouldn't kill the humans. But since he is an alien from Danubila, he doesn't get affected. So he just watches over the ship. But he starts having hallucinations. And it was I really enjoyed this episode. But anyway, Cafe Anyway, there is a phishing email going on with Netflix subscribers.
Anyway.
This according to Fortune magazine. The email scam is designed to trick Netflix users into thinking their accounts are in danger of suspension. Don't fall for it! According to Deadline, the new scam has already targeted roughly 110 million Netflix subscribers with phishing emails disguised as official correspondence with Netflix, warning users that their accounts could be suspended if their billing information is not updated. Don't fall for it. The emails include a link to a fake Netflix page that asks users to enter login details and eventually updated personal and billing information, and bam, they've got you if you do that. So don't do it. Be very wary. As we go outside a cafe anyway, and do things. At Podcastro Valley, Mont, the last place on earth. This has been a fun show. I'm really sad I couldn't find the girl with the really high-pitched voice. Apparently they didn't put it on the internet. They had it on the airwaves, but now, to the point, will only be heard on podcast form. I don't know what... And it was interesting to hear Warren Olney try and get some of his guests to confirm that they would be showing up on his podcast as well. And one of them just totally left him hanging. So I hope he continues it as a pod. That's the only way I hear it is in podcast form, because no local radio stations carry that show. So I'm all excited that he's become a podcaster only. Way to go, Warren Olney. I will continue listening to your very informative show. Next show, we are going to have Bonita, the Disgruntled Fair, and the Brewmaster. Have a wondrous day.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!